Welcome to Yield Today, where we just dive deep into people and their stories and learn from their perspectives about self care and growth, celebrating the journey, all that. I have Jackson Stewart on the mic with me today. Thank you for coming, Jackson.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, for sure. Jackson and I met when I was serving as a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter day Saints, and it was just really cool just to see Jackson and his growth. And now, both college students, I'm graduating, he's still finishing up and stuff, but it's been really cool. It's been really cool.
Yeah, once again, it's a pleasure being here. Um, yeah, shall we get started? What's your.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's dive into just your story and your overall growing up. Grew up in Boise Meridian area for most of your life,
Mm-hmm.
as far as I know, and yeah, just kind of break that down for us. Some of the ups and downs, wins, lessons, things of that nature.
For sure. So, I was in the Boise Meridian area since I was 8. Before that, I was in like the Utah County area, Provo, around there. So, growing up in Boise, it's a fairly conservative area. My parents were devout members of the church, and that kind of was passed on to me. So, growing up, going to school, all of that stuff, I was, um, you know, going to church, serving in callings. Like, I was the president of all the quorums growing up in Young Men's. And then around the end of junior year of high school, um, I had like a really nasty run in with my group of friends in high school, and they decided they didn't really want to be around me anymore. So, going into senior year, I really didn't have the friends that were gonna kind of bolster me up, and I felt lost. I felt, kind of worried. Like, man, is it like, am I really this awful person that they're making me out to be? You know that feeling.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I was just pretty worried, and anyway, I did find friends. I'm gonna use air quotes there. Um, that weren't really friends. They were just people to hang out with and make stupid decisions. So unfortunately, like, because I found respite there, I kind of went off the path that my parents sort of showed me, and so I did. I was doing that sort of stuff for about a year, and then eventually I was like, I remembered what my parents told me. Like, they, while I was going through all that, and they had to watch me struggle, and they kept echoing the message that they gave me from when I was growing up. They were saying, "Look, we love you. We want you to be doing what we know brings us joy, but just make sure you're doing what brings you joy." You
That's
know?
good. Yeah, that's awesome that your parents, and that's something I've observed from them too. You guys have had me over a couple times, even since I've served my mission. It's just that they're not going to force you to do anything. They want you to make your own decisions. They want you to grow on your own. They want you to make those changes on your own and not feel like
Mm.
it was their idea. They want to help you make those changes yourself.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, it was definitely hard for them to watch. I know for sure they were up crying some nights. I would come home and I would hear them, and that really like kind of broke my heart, and it was kind of a catalyst for helping me make the changes I needed to. And eventually, I was arrested, which I don't know if you heard that, but and when I woke up, I was like, gosh, I just felt so alone. Coming to, I wasn't asleep, but like, I was really out of my mind on drugs, and then suddenly I came to, and I was in a jail cell, and I was like, what? This is like not at all the sort of path I imagined as I was growing up. So I definitely messed up. So I got down on my knees right there, right then and there, and I was like, okay, God, like, I really messed up. And I'm feeling broken. Show me, like, are you there? Are you going to help me out of this? And I don't know, it was just like such an overwhelming sense of love that I felt after doing that.
Mm.
So it was a little bit of a rough journey after that, but it brought me to where I am today. And, I think sometimes I still have those
Ebbs and flows.
100%. And but honestly, I'm doing what I enjoy, doing what brings me a real joy.
Mm-hmm.
And although that stuff was enjoyable and I was having a good time in the moment, it definitely did not bring me the type of joy that living a life of service does.
That's cool. Well, thank you for sharing your story with us so openly and everything. Let's kind of jump back to just that change. Like, what were some of those habits that you were doing? And then, do you think maybe you just lost sight of how good those habits were doing? Were they just really slow with what they were doing for you, or you just.
Yeah, so you're talking about like before I lost my friends and went off the
Mm-hmm.
path. Yeah, so man, I'm using a lot of filler words. Sorry. Okay, so during the time before that, I never was really a great student, and honestly, I still have issues with that. But aside from that, I was doing what my parents always said, and they held family scripture study, and they said, "Hey, you should read the scriptures on your own." So I was reading with them, and then having a personal study, and prayer definitely helped out with keeping my head on straight. And yeah, so those things helped me see the light, so to speak. And I don't know, I guess what really brought it on was depression um, and anxiety. And then when the friend said, "See you later," it was like the, the straw that broke the camel's back. Although that was kind of a big blow for a kid at 16. Um, yeah, it was just kind of like it shattered my world, and I didn't know which way was up after that.
Interesting, yeah. This is something that I've definitely observed is how when we're going through a really rough time, if we can hold on to some of those habits, and we can hold on to such a central part of our identity.
Mm-hmm.
But when our identity is kind of swallowed up in various friend groups and stuff, and those friend groups grow away, it's really hard to combat that. So, how have you been able to go from like the group habits, and maybe some of them weren't super good, like with your friends, and the group habits with your family, which were obviously really good, to like having really good personal habits and group habits now?
Huh, that's a really good question. So, so this school is really good about like having groups. Obviously, there's the apartment, and then in our student wards, we have our FHE groups, right? So the school is really good about building those little communities, whereas I'm sure other schools it's a bit harder. Like if you're going to Boise State or whatever, you're just show up to class, you have your apartment, but who knows how good those people are. So I'm just glad to be at a church school like that. So with those FHE groups, it's really good to like have those people that are good and you can go to if you have issues. So for me, it's about like the support. I still really struggle with anxiety and depression and that sort of stuff. So having people I know I can depend on, even though I'm 400 miles away from home, I can reach out to these built-in friends and have that support. But we also have weekly FHEs where we first get together, have a prayer and a spiritual discussion, and then do something fun, you know. And sorry, those habits are good. I do know that going to church is a really good um, bolstering of my spirits for the week. And then as far as personal habits go, you know, making sure I'm reading the scriptures every day is a huge positive. And yeah, I think that's all I got to say on that.
That's good. No, I mean, if you want there to be some kind of change, then having those built-in friend groups is great. I mean, I've had some family evening groups here at BYU Idaho that honestly I didn't really feel a ton that they cared about me. So it's really good that you're having that. And I think just something that I've really learned from doing this podcast and stuff is you have to be able to be okay with being by yourself at times and just create your own group if needed.
That's really good. The being okay with being alone is a really good thing, because and that goes back to the habits. If you don't have those habits and they're not strong, then it's gonna be hard to be alone. You're like, for instance, if you're always on your phone looking at social media, YouTube, whatever it is, and then you're alone, that's what you're going to do. And there's a huge mess of additional temptations and things that come along with that sort of behavior. But if you have those habits of like, hey, I'm going to put a timer on my phone so that like when I use this much time on social media, it's going to say, oh, your time's up. Then you're like, okay, you're right. I've been on that for long enough. Time to go on and do something more productive.
Yeah, I think it's really important to have those built-in coaches into your alarm systems and stuff like that. That's something I'm trying to do better right now is just have different alarms that signify working on different things and just kind of going after it, because the professionals, they don't wait to be inspired. They move and then they're inspired. They never wait. They just move, and then the inspiration comes. Cool. So let's talk a little bit about like getting out of your comfort zone into the growth zone a little bit. So I know you did some sales for Vivint. I'm not sure where your status is with them, but I remember you talking about it with me, how you're really excited. And, you know, I've done some sales and it went pretty good for the most part. It's not like I made a ton of money or anything, but you ended up doing really well. So kind of like break that down for us a little bit. What was the keys to the success and things you learned about yourself from that experience?
Well, I appreciate the positive words. Honestly, like, it wasn't like astounding success, but nonetheless, thank you. So, so I'm no longer doing it. So when I first went out, obviously I was super positive. I wanted it to really work out. And it took me a while for me to see some success out there. You know, every day out on the doors, knocking on people's houses. It's a little tough. It's like I was in a call center when I first graduated from high school, and we were doing cold calls. Well, not really cold calls, but it was collections, which is really tough when you're just making calls out to people that are not caught up on credit card payments. They don't want to hear that. I would not want to hear that if like I'm a struggling person and struggling to make the payments that I need to, and then suddenly I get a call saying, "Hey, you're looks like you're past due. Can you make a payment?" You know, that's not good. But the next step is like unsuspecting people getting a knock at the door, and they're like, "Oh, I wonder who that is. Is my neighbor Jimmy coming over to pay a visit?" And then they open the door, and they see this kid that's saying, "Hey, we're trying to sell you something. Here's why you should get it." You know, that can be a little rough sometimes. But anyway, took me a little while to get in the habit of breaking the ice, making sure that I could build a reputation with them within like the first 5 minutes. Less than that if you're really good, and that's the hope to do. But I did make a good number of sales, but I just had to say goodbye. I couldn't like financially stay out there long enough, and I fell into a couple of old habits that I shouldn't have. So I did come home a little bit, like right at the tail end of June.
Mm-hmm.
So I was out there for
This is 2021.
yes, summer of 2021. I went out there early April, so April, May, June, so 3 months, and I really enjoyed it out there. The guys were great, and we certainly had fun. We would play volleyball on the beach. We were in an apartment complex with a pool. We would swim in. Yeah, it was good fun out there. But it just didn't work out for me. Yeah.
Yeah, something we talked with Nick Sosa last week about knowing your values, knowing what is important to you. Like there's some things like the pool or whatever, like if you're a swimmer or something like that, that's a big selling point.
Hmm.
But for Nick, he's driven by, you know, just very strong values of he wants somebody to talk to if he's having a rough time. You know, he wants to have that open communication. What are some of those like parts of culture or seeds of culture or whatever that really resonate with you and make you really want to work for somebody or with somebody?
Oh, okay. So, one thing that was like night and day when I came out here to college here in Rexburg is, just the sense of like, I feel like everyone here that as we're walking around campus, you can just feel like they're on a similar path and they're trying to succeed, and they probably they definitely have hopes and dreams of their own. And I feel like most of the time, if I go out and talk to someone out on the street, I know you've had these experiences of like going out and trying to make a new friend, or putting your arm out in service when you see someone that may need help. Out here for me, it's like most of the time, if I'm putting my arm out there and just trying to have friendly conversation, I know that it will be received well, probably 95% of the time. And to me, that's huge. Like, I love people, and I love talking to them and figuring out what makes them tick. I'm a psychology major right now, and people are just awesome, and I love the different backgrounds people come from, and the way that their background informs how they act in the present and all that stuff. So, if as far as in the workplace, having people that I know I can just talk to and have a good conversation with them is really good. But productivity just has to be up there, number one.
Mm-hmm.
If I feel like we're gonna be doing things that make a difference, and there aren't gonna be as much roadblocks, drama. I love talking with people, but I don't really enjoy the drama when it comes to the workplace, especially, because that just hinders everyone's progress. All of that.
Yeah. I think a part of what you said is like not making a big deal about things and just being willing to just talk things out. I think that's super super valuable.
Communication, to put it
Yeah.
simply.
Yeah, that's really good. So I know that I've helped you a little bit with building a YouTube channel for you, like helping you with your
Yeah.
YouTube channel, and you just take me as somebody that is kind of like myself, is willing to start from scratch and just go after something and just build from there, and I admire that. So what are some things you've learned from starting from scratch and doing some of that stuff?
Yeah. So with YouTube, um, I did a video on. So there's going to be a new Elder Scrolls game. Don't know if you're familiar, but there's Skyrim, and then before that there was like Oblivion. There was Hammerfell, some other games before that, but Skyrim was a big part of my life once I got. I never had any consoles that could run Skyrim until I got a Nintendo Switch. And then when I did get the Switch and got the game, it was huge. It was mind opening to me. It was a really cool experience to have this fully fleshed out world where you could talk to different people. But anyway, um, I did a video on the next game um, that they announced is going to be coming out, and doing some like theories and speculation on what it's going to be like, where it's going to take place in that fictional universe. And to me, it was really cool, like doing this research to figure out what am I gonna say in the video, what's gonna be something that people are gonna be interested in, what's not just out there that anyone would be able to find out. What can I and how can I put my personality in there so that people are interested in what I have to say. Um, to me, it was also really cool, like thinking about building a brand in that process. So I only did one video. I don't have any sort of software that I can use for myself. I was having to use my roommate's software, and then now he's gonna have to be on it 100% of the time this semester, and he has been. So I haven't really been able to use that. He's a really busy guy. He's doing like logos for people. Um, he's doing like an animation project with his professor from last semester, and it's looking really cool. I can't wait to see it, but it's just like I don't want to have to rely on someone else. So in the meantime, I've been really working on writing poetry and learning how to play the guitar because I want to make songs of my own. I really enjoy rock, and I would love to put, my stuff out there for people to enjoy. And then in addition to that, I am also right now working with my another roommate to start a business here in Rexburg, and that's been really cool to kind of like figure out all the logistics, what we're gonna have to do, what sort of venue we want. We're still in negotiations on selling a deal on a lease. We have to work out the finances, and we have a meeting this coming Wednesday to figure that out. So it's awesome just to see progress as we're trying to work on these projects.
That's exciting. And one thing I really like that I thought about is you starting the YouTube channel and talking about Elder Scrolls and stuff that, it gives you experience. So when you tackle your next thing, you have that experience of like trying to build a brand, trying to resonate with an audience. All that stuff is very useful, just kind of across the board. And so you don't have to worry about it not being a good use of your time because you went for it, you tried it. Maybe you'll come back to it. But the thing is that you tried it, and it's there for you to learn from now. It's not something that you've experienced only in your mind through visualization. You've actually experienced it. You've heard it. You've touched, the mouse to click different stuff. You've experienced this much more, then it's become an actual thing, and now you can learn from it. I think that's really valuable, and I think it's one of the hardest parts is to get something really small out. Then you have something you can look from and move from.
Absolutely, yeah, and I'm definitely more of the artistic type, and I get back to like what brings me joy. Like I really enjoy the art stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like drawing, writing, music. We're in a choir together, and I derive a lot of joy from doing those things and just feeling like I'm creating something. I believe we were all created by a creative being with the power to create for ourselves. And 100%, like, we should be trying to create something that makes the world a better place, that brings satisfaction to ourselves. Because if you're deriving satisfaction from other sources, it can be dangerous there. If you're always a consumer, for me, it's like I've been a consumer most of my life, but I want to be producing some of that creative art. You know where I'm coming from?
That's good. No, it makes me think of like how it's good to, have those restaurants you like going to, like Olive Garden and Panda Express. But at the end of the day, you can't live off of those things. You have to be able to make your own stuff. Like I personally am not that great of a cook, and it's been exposed to me a number of times. And similarly, I want to be able to create my own content and not be held back by anybody else or by habits of, oh, I watch this one every Saturday night or whatever. Like I want to, have people learn from stuff I'm doing. Like I'd still like to consume those things from time to time, but ultimately I want to grow my own restaurant, so to speak.
Yes, no, 100%. Like, movies out there are really great, and YouTube videos out there are really great. Music, all the music that is out there is really great. I mean, not all of it. Some of it I don't really vibe with. But everyone's doing a great job, and they pour a lot of passion into there. And I definitely understand that passion, and I want it. You know, I want to experience it, and then see the joy that it brings other people.
You want a piece of that pie. You don't want to just just see it. Like you actually want to taste it. Yeah.
Right.
I admire that. Cool. Well, you've been a longtime fan of the podcast. I'm not sure when you first listened to it, but I know you listened to the interview with Alex Sanfilippo, who is doing some super amazing stuff. I interviewed him back in August 2020 about his journey, kind of a similar journey, of learning, like, what do I really value, kind of coming closer to God, and then building businesses and stuff after that, because God is extremely creative, most creative being in the universe. And when we stay in touch with Him, we stay creative, we stay happy, things go really well. So what have been some of the takeaways you've had maybe from that interview, or just any of the podcast episodes that you've listened to since you started listening to Yield Today?
I apologize, it's been a little bit of time since I have listened to any. However, I don't remember who it was. But they were talking about, maybe it was that guy that you said, Louis Sanfilippo?
Alex Sanfilippo.
Alex, I apologize, Alex, if you're listening to this. But yeah, he was talking about, like, you have to just find passion in something. What do you value? And then figure out a way for it to work for you and work for other people to some extent. Because if other people find value in what you value, then you can continue chasing that, so to speak, so that you can bring joy to yourself and you can bring joy to others, and it can help you stay afloat, so to speak.
That's neat, because that's something that Alex, in all of his interviews, podcast interviews that he's done, is he says, I am not a man of profit, I'm a man of value. So I provide value for people through the things I do.
And I think that's a really good message to have. Vivint, that was totally their message. Because they're in a smart home, but like a huge part of that is security. And there's a big value in home security, protecting, especially in California, which is where I was doing it, protecting what you love, even though sometimes depending on what part of California, you can't really protect yourself without a home security system, which is unfortunate. But out there, saying, look, we have this thing that we're gonna help you. We're gonna help you protect what is important to you, your family, your stuff, and here's why it's gonna be worth it. Having something like that definitely is gonna help you as you're trying to pursue something in anything in life, really. If you're trying to make a living off of music, if you're trying to make a living off of some business idea that you have, you gotta pour value into it so that it's gonna be successful. Otherwise, it won't be.
That's true. Yeah, you have to come from that place of value because even if they don't buy, if you've at least provided some kind of value or information, education for them, that's useful and they may come back to you in the future.
Absolutely.
Cool. So, I know we don't have a ton more time. You've done a lot of amazing things with your life. What are some of the things that you would share with, like, somebody who is struggling in college, struggling to find themselves, struggling to bounce back from addiction, any of that stuff? Just kind of enlighten us.
Yeah. Well, let's see. What wisdom do I have? All right. So, exercise. I find it very important. And sorry, I'm having a little bit of gas. Anyway, when I'm having a hard time, when I'm down in the dumps, yeah, I talked a little bit about the depression. When I'm having a depressive episode, going to the gym and just giving it my all, making sure, like, okay, I don't have to max every rep, but I gotta do whatever weight I'm on. I gotta do is kind of what Muhammad Ali said, I think. Like, I don't start counting until I start feeling pain. I kind of take that. If I just go until, like, I can't go any longer, and then I take a little breath, and then I go again, keep doing those reps, pumping them out until, anyway, no matter how you do it, you don't have to push yourself to the limit every time. But if you're getting out there, running on the treadmill a little bit even, doing some push-ups, doing some squats, whatever it is, just keep your body healthy. And I 100% believe if your body is in a good place, then the mind will follow. Like, there's this thing I heard where, like, where your body goes, your neck is going to follow, and where your neck goes, your head is going to follow, and where your eyes, your eyes follow your head. So if you're pointing your body somewhere, your neck's going to follow that, your head's going to follow that, and then your eyes are going to follow that, and where your eyes go, your whole self goes. So if you're pointing yourself in these healthy habits, going to the gym, eating well, staying in touch with God through scripture study and prayer, all those little habits, then you're pointing yourself for success.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely crucial. You have to have that kind of true north compass thing that brings you back. And one of my favorite thoughts, I'm pretty sure it's from James Clear's book, I'll have to quote it, but he talks about keystone habits. Exercise is a keystone habit that if you do it, you are going to have to change your life in other ways. Just to get better at exercise, you're going to have to get more sleep. You're going to have to eat more food. Otherwise, you're just not going to be able to improve consistently. That's something I saw when I got into track was immediately it's like, okay, well, if I really want to get better at this, I have to rest. That's what my team's doing. They're all resting. They're all getting plenty of sleep.